Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. The House of Representatives has again postponed consideration of the petroleum industry bill as lawmakers could not agree on some clauses in the bill. Now, the House is working to see that it completes work on the bill as soon as possible and will continue its consideration of the report of the ad hoc committee that worked on the bill. Our correspondent Lanre Lasisi reports.
Lawmakers in the House of Representatives gathered for the first plenary session of their last week in the National Assembly. The lawmakers started by adopting a special procedure for some bills transmitted from the Senate to the House. The procedure deemed the 11 bills presented as having passed first, second and third reading. Some of the bills that benefited from this procedure include the Nigerian Football Association Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2015, Hydroelectric Power Producing Areas Development Commission Amendment Bill 2015, and the Criminal Justice Release from Custody Amendment Bill 2015. The House also considered some reports of various ad hoc committees set up by the House. One of such reports was to investigate the alleged shady deals involving the Minister of Petroleum Resources, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, and other agencies in respect to the allocation of some oil mining leases. But when the question was put for the report to be considered,
this motion say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it.
one of the lawmakers explained why the motion was rejected.
The thing behind that position is that the recommendations don't agree. You have raised an issue that there needs to be openness and transparency. You have raised an issue that there needs to be quick dissemination of information and consistency. Then after raising those issues, they are coming to say that everybody should be given a clear bill of health, which just contradicts the whole thing, and that is the crux of the matter.
The House also resumed consideration of the petroleum industry bill, but once again, members could not agree on some clauses in the bill.
And the best thing to do is for Parliament to retain that power to annually make provision for frontier exploration. But to say that we are tying our revenues from now, and we know how difficult it is to amend this law, that we are tying our revenues. I don't think that we are doing what is right.
The Deputy Speaker then took this decision.
To you, my dear colleagues, that rather than us staying here till night, or you say you are voting, what are you voting? You vote politically. And I said, this for me is not something I believe will resolve politically. I want a technical resolution on the matter, so that whatever we are doing is guided, whether by constitution or by what the experts, authorities that you know should tell us.
The House has adjourned consideration of this report till Wednesday to see if it's possible to pass this bill before the 7th House of Representatives closes on Thursday. Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
The Department for International Development, DFID, has asked the 8th National Assembly to build a strong synergy between the two chambers and make laws that will encourage more female participation in politics. The country representative of the DFID, Mr. Ben Mello, made the call at a retreat organized by the DFID and civil society organizations for the newly elected members of the National Assembly in Abuja. According to him, members of the 7th National Assembly made some remarkable improvements over their previous colleagues, which ultimately set the new standard for democracy in Nigeria.
Majority of the participants at this forum will be resuming office next week as federal lawmakers for the first time. This informs the reason why civil society groups organized this meeting on the tasks ahead. The organizer of the forum, Mr. Clement Nyako, stresses the need for legislators to build a synergy with the public.
We didn't have elected members, and the relationship between the executive arm of government and civil society was mostly adversarial. It is important for us as civil society groups to be able to establish the connection with you elected members and help in your task.
Also, the country representative of the UK's Department for International Development, Mr. Ben Mallow, used the occasion to charge legislators on the task ahead.
I would like to see how we can improve, how you can improve working relations and communications between the Senate and the House. I'm interested in how the NAS can improve the representation of women in politics.
Other speakers at the forum advised the legislators to always connect with their constituencies as they resume office.
When you go to the parliament, they will say, well, you are lawmakers. But in reality, your duties are many, not just lawmaking. Number one, representing the interests of your constituency. That is number one. It's your number one duty. You were elected by people from an area. Representing their interests, number one. They are more concerned about that.
Some lawmakers who attended the forum described it as an eye-opener on the task ahead.
I'm aware now that when there is dispute in passing bills between the Senate and the reps, that there's a conference committee that will harmonize. I think that is the only new thing that I'm learning today, because in the state we don't have a harmonization committee because it's just one assembly.
With this retreat now, we are refreshed. We know exactly what we are going to do to make the 8th assembly a functional assembly, not assembly where we go to where people will be fighting.
The elected members of the National Assembly will resume plenary next week, as the 7th National Assembly is expected to be dissolved by this weekend.
To politics now, and the coast appears not to be clear regarding the impeachment threat hanging over the governor of Ekiti State, Mr. Ayodele Fayose. The 19 APC lawmakers are said to be planning to conclude that impeachment process, which they raised a few weeks ago, anytime soon. The governor says their action is illegal and will result into flouting a subsisting court order, which has asked the parties to maintain status quo. According to the embattled governor, all efforts to pacify the APC lawmakers have failed, in spite of a meeting with the group in Akure. The governor says the lawmakers' entitlements and salary arrears have been paid as agreed, but they have failed to keep to the truce which was reached. He therefore says any attempt by the APC lawmakers to storm the state over the impeachment may unsettle the peace in the state.
Interesting times in the politics of Ekiti State. The tension in Ado-Ekiti, the state capital, is palpable. For several months, the story about the impeachment of Governor Ayodele Fayose lingers. But now, it appears the APC lawmakers are not slowing down at all.
Ekiti people elected the House members to work to a particular date, and they will continue to do their constitutional role, perform their constitutional role up to that date. And if it includes impeachment, so be it.
For Governor Fayose, the attempt to remove him by the group of 19 APC lawmakers is an act of illegality.
Completely illegal. I mean, you want to overreach the court, or you want to say that there's no order of court, or what are we saying? We cannot continue to overrun the court.
There have been moves to restore peace within the state's arms of government, as the House of Assembly is now divided along party lines. The governor was in neighboring Akure town in Ondo State a few days ago, according to him, on a peace mission.
We have met.
Who are the people that have met?
Well, the executive and the legislature. And we have met in the overall interest of our state, believing that we will be able to find solution to the problems.
What the governor said is exactly what we have done.
A few days after that meeting, it appears the expected peace is not in sight.
At that meeting, they said they want me to pay their salaries and make sure that we all part in peace and we have a mutual departure. As a leader, I consented. The checks were signed for by them just to make sure that this state is at peace.
On that payment mentioned by the governor, there is another side to the story.
Flying of checks and whatever all over the social media. We have not got none of the 19 members can confirm whether they have been given any check. And in any case, if one of the checks I saw is written 2 million, is it 2 million that is due to them from since November that they left the office?
Peace in the state, Governor Fayose says, might be threatened in the entire political torrent.
This is a very dangerous trend. I am more particular about the security of life and property in the state rather than all this, because there's no way 18 or 16 of them will come into the state that will not cause a lot of agitations.
Ekiti State has witnessed impeachment in the past, and political wars are not strange in that climb. One thing the people of the state cannot wait to see again is peace.
We don't want any blood to be shed out in this Ekiti. We need peaceful and harmony in Ekiti.
If you allow them to come in, then they and the people of Ekiti will now see whatever they want to do.
How the political class will achieve this is now for us all to wait and see. Sheun Okimbaloye for Channels Television News.
Now, the Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike, has inaugurated the state's 8th Assembly after reopening the legislative complex. The Assembly complex had been shut for almost 2 years following the crisis that engulfed the House. Governor Wike said the reopening and inauguration will enable the lawmakers conduct their legislative duties. The newly constituted House has Ikoyi Owaji Ibane as the new Speaker.
July the 9th, 2013, pandemonium in the Rivers State House of Assembly as lawmakers engage in a free-for-all. For nearly 2 years, the crisis remains unresolved and the House remains deserted. But now, it's a new dawn. This large crowd in front of the Rivers State House of Assembly in Port Harcourt may pass for another political campaign, but it's not. The people have come to witness the reopening of the Legislative House by the newly sworn-in governor. With the Assembly reopened, Governor Nyesom Wike goes ahead to dissolve the Assembly and inaugurate the 8th Legislative House.
Honorable Ikoyi Owaji Ibane, do solemnly swear, affirm that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
According to him, this is in line with the Constitution and for the good of the state.
Whereas it is provided in Section 105, Subsection 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, that the House of Assembly shall stand dissolved at a duration of a period of 4 years, commencing from the date of the first sitting of the House. And whereas it is further provided in Subsection 3 of Section 105 of the same Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, that the person elected as governor shall have power to issue a proclamation for the holding of the first session of the House of Assembly immediately after the sworn in.
Now the Rivers State House of Assembly is open again, and the lawmakers are expected to sit in the hallowed chambers. This, according to the governor, will be an appendage of government that will move the ship of governance forward.
6 members of staff of the Central Bank of Nigeria implicated in an 8 billion naira currency recycling scam have been remanded in prison custody following the arraignment before Justice Nathaniel Ayo Emmanuel of a federal high court sitting in Ibadan, Oyo State. CBN employees are alleged to have compromised the bank's exercise meant to mop up mutilated and defaced higher denomination currencies from circulation to combat inflation. When the charges were read to them, they pleaded not guilty. And after their plea, the prosecution asked the court for a trial date and for the defendants to be remanded in prison custody. The judge opposed their bail applications and urged counsel to the defendants to present their bail applications formally to the court. Now, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission today continued interrogating the former Adamawa State Governor Murtala Nyako over alleged laundering of 15 billion naira. Mr. Nyako surrendered himself at the EFCC headquarters in Abuja yesterday afternoon on his return from a one-year self-imposed exile abroad. He was released around 7 p.m. but returned to the anti-graft agency's headquarters today. Reports reaching us from the EFCC indicate that the former governor might be granted bail on self-recognition. Now, when the news at 10 returns, less than 24 hours after a petrol tanker inferno killed over 69 people in Anambra State, 2 more tanker accidents claim lives and property in Lagos and Abia. Do join us again.